Unathi, good morning, and thank you very much for your time and your patience. Tell me, how easy was it for you to revive this publication 2 years ago?
It wasn't easy at all. It took a while assembling the team as well as doing the research and trying to figure out what type of content to put in it. But eventually it happened. It took almost a year to get up to August 2012 where we actually got it up and running.
What gave you the idea to revive Isigidimi SamaXhosa in the first place?
I was doing a bit of research around transforming the media in South Africa through languages. So it was meant to become a PhD dissertation. And that didn't quite happen because after doing a dummy copy of Isigidimi 2012, we then started producing another one in the following month and another one. And the demand sort of grew for this Xhosa newspaper, which led us to building websites as well as just publishing it in general. So it wasn't meant to actually happen as a newspaper. It was meant to be a research paper.
Now, I mean, publishing an isiXhosa newspaper just on its own is not an easy feat, as you say. I mean, we spoke earlier here to the director of the Jozi Book Fair about the challenges that they're facing in getting indigenous South African languages published in terms of books. From a content perspective, is it easy for you nowadays to get the right content and to publish?
Yes, we've got about 41 contributors across the country. I think the idea that it's hard to get the content is rather unfortunate, but there are people out there who have stories across South Africa. It's just that we tend to focus on smaller sections of society when we think of things to write about. So there is content out there, and we do tend to provide an alternative in the newspaper. It's just that people are not used to writing in their own languages or are not comfortable writing in their own languages. So we have to spend time coaching people to get that right. But content, there's plenty of it. There are 50 million South Africans, 8 million Xhosas, so we couldn't possibly be lacking in terms of getting that right.
So you've got a target audience already waiting there, particularly in the Eastern and the Western Cape. Is that where you're mostly focused? Is that who your target audience is?
Yes, mostly Eastern Cape, because there aren't quite as many publications that get knocked and dropped around, but whereas in the Western Cape there are other smaller publications that mixes Xhosa and English, your community papers. But Eastern Cape is our primary target for now.
I must ask you this, do you get support from advertisers? I mean, to get a newspaper going, circulating, I don't know how big are your circulation figures, I don't know how big is your run, but do you have support from advertisers in the area, particularly those who want to reach out to amaXhosa speakers?
It's slowly picking up. We've had sympathy advertisers in the past, corporates as well as government departments advertising who support the idea. But we've also been selling the newspaper, and we've had people buying the newspapers in bulk and sort of asking us to distribute it in certain sections. Our print run stands at about 10,000 copies per month, sometimes 20,000. That was our biggest print run. And so we are planning to expand on the 15th of October. But I'll keep that under wraps because there's a big announcement coming around that, where we plan to grow and become a weekly newspaper, as well as have a formal structure for advertising and all those processes. So there's growth in the pipelines.
Funding, how are you going to fund that growth?
We're partnering with I can't disclose much for now, but we are partnering with a number of people in getting that right. Previously, it was self-funded. We used to raise the fund as well as, get contributions from our contributors. But for now, we are partnering with an organization to get this right.
Okay, but I'm sure organizations like the MDDA, the Media Diversity Agency the government set up, should be helpful for you. Hopefully, you can knock on their door as well. Tell me, Imvo Zabansundu, I remember, was one of the biggest Xhosa newspapers many years ago in South Africa. It no longer exists. What encourages you, what gives you confidence that Isigidimi SamaXhosa will be able to sustain itself in this world where English permeates everything that we do and communicate today?
I think there's a hunger. I'm very optimistic because the generation that is coming after us seems to be feeling or is a bit restless in terms of understanding how language sort of informs who you are in society. So the demand for it is there, and content-wise, people want to be heard. People have stories out there. I think Imvo Zabantsundu failed in 1998, largely to ownership matters where, you know, your Naspers were taking over it, and later Caxton got involved, and it became a tabloid in terms of content, where it used to be a very serious journal of Imvo Zabantsundu. It became a tabloid newspaper, and it eventually became a knock and drop. So people didn't take it seriously, and the content wasn't quite as serious. So it's about maintaining that standard and giving people quality content. So we are optimistic in terms of reaching that market and expanding it.